Welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today, we're going to be exploring some pretty profound spiritual concepts,
Okay.
and all from a lecture by Joel Goldsmith.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you can find the video on YouTube, by the way,
hmm
on the Divine Heart Prince channel. Have you ever heard of Joel Goldsmith?
I have. Yeah, he's got some really interesting perspectives on spirituality and prayer and stuff.
Yeah, he really challenges, I think, traditional religious views
He
in
does.
a really thought-provoking way.
Yeah, definitely.
So this lecture really focuses on the simple phrase, God is.
Okay.
And so that's what we'll be looking at today, and how that can change our perspective on prayer and how we
Whoa.
see the world around us, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, what really stood out to me was his take on prayer.
Okay.
He just totally flips the script on what most people think prayer is about.
Yeah, what does he say?
Well, he makes it clear that true prayer is not about
Mm.
giving God a shopping list
Oh, okay.
of requests.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people think that, right?
Yeah, right. He even says, and I quote, prayer is never going to God for something
Yeah.
unless we can speak of the desire to know God.
So it's more about a relationship
Yeah.
than about, getting things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a relationship and like aligning ourselves with
Mhm.
the fundamental truth that God is
Okay.
and recognizing God as the source of everything. It's not about asking for stuff.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's just about awareness.
Yeah, that's very different from how a lot of people
I know.
think about prayer.
I know. It's a totally different perspective
Yeah.
than what we were raised with, a lot of us.
So does he talk about what happens if we just let go of that idea of asking for things?
He does.
Okay.
And he suggests that, maybe if we stop focusing on trying to get God to
Oh.
fix things for us,
Yeah.
that actually might empower us
Okay.
in a different way because we're releasing our attachment to outcomes,
Mm-hmm.
which I think,
Right.
is something we all struggle with.
Definitely.
Yeah. But if we just let go of that,
Mm-hmm.
could we maybe open ourselves up
Yeah.
to something else, something bigger?
He's saying that the focus on what we lack
Yeah.
is keeping us from experiencing what is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Instead of saying like, God, give me this or take away that,
Right. Right.
we should be saying more like, God, help me to see
Yeah.
what's already here.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And then he goes on and he says we need to just abandon
Oh, okay.
all those human judgments about good and evil.
Okay, that's interesting.
And that's where I was like, whoa, hold on a second. How can we just,
Right, ignore all that
ignore that?
because it seems so important.
It's like fundamental to how we navigate the world, right?
Yeah.
But he makes this argument that we tend to judge things just based on appearances. And that's where we get that distorted view of reality. We
Yeah.
label things as good or bad.
Okay, so he's not saying like that there aren't difficult things in
Oh,
life,
yeah.
but it's about looking beyond the surface.
Exactly. Yeah, seeing that deeper truth
Okay.
beyond the surface judgments.
I'm curious, what kind of examples does he give?
Well, he uses this really striking example.
Okay.
He talks about like looking at a serious disease
Uh-huh.
and seeing the Christ.
Whoa. Okay, wait. Now, how does that work?
Yeah, and I was like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so he's not saying the disease is good,
No.
but he's pointing to a deeper truth, right?
Yeah.
That even in what we see as negative, there's still that divine essence.
Yeah, like that Christ consciousness or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it.
So it's like our limited human perspective can't fully grasp the wholeness of God's creation.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
Like we try to judge things and put them in boxes and
We label things.
yeah, but really,
But it's all part of a bigger picture.
it's way bigger than we can comprehend,
Yeah, and then he brings up the first commandment.
Oh, right.
Thou shalt have no other God before me.
Yeah, and most people think that just means like don't worship other gods, right?
Yeah.
But he has a different take on it.
Right.
He does. Yeah, what's his interpretation?
Well, he says it's an acknowledgement that God
Uh-huh.
is literally the only power.
Like the only power.
Yeah, the only power that exists. There's nothing else.
Okay, so how does that relate back to the God is concept?
Well, if God really is everything,
Yeah.
then there can't be anything outside of that.
Right, including good and evil.
Right. There's no good or evil that's somehow separate from God.
Wow. Okay, I'm starting to see how this all connects.
Yeah, so then that leads to this really big question.
What's that?
If God is the only power,
Uh-huh.
then how can we be afraid of anything else?
Oh, wow. That's deep.
Right. If God is all there is,
then what is there to be afraid of? Like,
Yeah.
how can disease or lack or
right.
any of those things have any power over us?
So he's saying fear itself is kind of like worshiping a false god.
Yeah, like the god of limitation or the
Oh.
god of scarcity.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Does he have any stories to illustrate this point?
He does, actually. He tells this this story about a priest encountering the devil.
Oh, okay. I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. A priest is walking down this quiet country road,
Okay.
and he hears someone calling for help.
Okay.
So, of course, he's a little hesitant at first,
Yeah, I'd be nervous.
Yeah, like, should I go? What if it's,
Right, what if it's a trap?
dangerous? But the cries for help get louder, so he decides to approach.
Okay.
And as he gets closer, he realizes it's the devil.
Oh, no.
I know, right?
Not who you want to meet on a country road.
No, not at all. And the priest is, of course, terrified.
Right.
And he starts, wishing for the devil to go away. All this. But then the devil says something really surprising.
What's that?
He says, I'm your best friend.
Hold on. What?
Yeah. The devil is claiming to be the priest's best friend.
Okay, now how does that even work?
Well, he goes on to explain that the priest's entire livelihood depends on people being afraid of him, the devil.
Oh, okay.
Like, how else would the priest make a living?
Right, who would he save people from?
Exactly.
Okay, that's pretty clever.
Right.
So he's highlighting how we often create
Yes.
our own enemies.
Yes, that's exactly it. We get so caught up in this duality,
Good versus evil.
good versus evil,
Okay.
that we forget that really God is
Right, and that's the only truth.
the only truth.
Yeah.
And the priest needs the devil to exist so he can have his job,
Right, it gives him purpose.
Yeah. And Goldsmith is saying, we all kind of do this in some way, don't we?
I guess so, yeah. Like we create problems
Yeah.
to give us a sense of identity.
Yeah. Or we cling to certain beliefs
Right.
because they make us feel like we're doing something important or
Okay.
we're on the right side.
That's a really good point. So we're perpetuating the very things we're fighting against.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Goldsmith says we need to move beyond this
Okay.
limited dualistic way of thinking.
So instead of black and white, it's more of a spectrum.
Yeah, more of a unified understanding, I guess,
Yeah.
like a reality where God truly encompasses everything.
Without any need for labels.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we try to separate things into good and evil, we're creating a false dichotomy that keeps us from seeing the whole picture.
So it's like we're missing out on the wholeness of reality.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay.
And that's where Goldsmith drops this really powerful statement.
Okay, what is it?
He says, and I quote, "This is neither good nor evil.
Okay.
It just is spiritually, harmoniously, joyously, eternally, infinitely, immortally is."
Whoa, that's a mouthful.
I know, right?
Okay, so he's trying to capture the essence of existence itself.
Yeah, like the pure isness of everything.
That's really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So how do we, actually apply this to our lives?
Well, that's what we're going to get into next time.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
This is definitely a lot to take in. But I'm already starting to see how God can really change how we approach life.
Yeah, it's a big shift.
It is.
Hmm.
But I think it's definitely worth exploring.
I agree.
Okay, so we've been talking about this idea that God encompasses everything.
Right.
Without any need for labels like good or evil, right?
Yeah,
But how does that actually play out in our everyday lives?
that's a good question.
It's one thing to understand this concept in
Yeah.
our heads, you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But how do we actually apply it when we're dealing with,
Right.
real world challenges?
Yeah, like difficult people,
Yeah.
impossible situations.
Exactly. Goldsmith doesn't just leave us hanging with this abstract concept, though.
No.
He offers some really practical ways to live with this God is awareness.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so what are some of those?
So, one thing that he talks about is how we view other people
Okay.
and how we interact with them.
Uh-huh.
So instead of immediately judging someone as good or bad,
Right.
honest or dishonest,
Uh-huh.
he suggests that we just approach everyone with that simple recognition
Okay.
God is.
That's a pretty radical shift, I
That's
think.
it.
Especially when you're dealing with someone
Yeah.
who's being difficult.
Right. Pushing your buttons.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
So what if
Yeah.
instead of judging them,
Mm-hmm.
we could see them through the lens of God is?
Right.
Like, what if we could see that divine spark in them, even if they're, acting out or being...
Yeah, even if it's buried under, anger, fear, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that would change things?
I think it would revolutionize our relationships.
Yeah, it would change everything.
Yeah, it's like we're taking off a pair of glasses that have been distorting our vision.
Right.
And finally seeing the world clearly and the people in it.
Yeah, seeing people for who they really are.
Yeah, and Goldsmith suggests that this shift in perception isn't just about, being nicer or more tolerant.
Yeah.
It actually has the power to impact our ability to heal.
Okay.
And to experience transformation.
So if we're not asking God to change someone, then how does healing happen?
Yeah, what does that even look like?
So Goldsmith explains it like this. When we let go of our judgments, we simply acknowledge God is.
Okay.
Not just, in our heads, but in our hearts. It's like we create this kind of vacuum inside ourselves.
Okay.
And into that vacuum, spiritual wisdom rushes in.
Oh, wow.
And that reveals the truth of the situation.
So we're surrendering our limited understanding?
Yes.
Making space for something greater to come in?
Exactly. It's like we're stepping out of the way and letting something bigger work through us.
Okay, so this is really challenging.
Yeah.
My whole approach to prayer and healing, I've always thought of it as like petitioning God to fix things.
Yeah.
But he's suggesting it's more about aligning with the truth that's already there.
Yeah.
Even if we can't see it.
Right. Like the power to heal is already within us.
Okay.
It's not something we have to go out and get.
So it's not about conjuring up some kind of external power.
No.
It's about tapping into something that's already there.
Yeah.
All along.
Exactly. And it's all around us too.
That makes me think of all those times when I was so focused on trying to solve a problem that I completely missed the bigger picture.
We all do that.
Yeah.
But what if instead of getting all wrapped up in the problem and trying to figure out how to fix it, we just shifted our focus to recognizing that God is.
Yeah, it's like instead of being caught up in the storm, we remember that the sun is still shining above the clouds.
Exactly. It doesn't mean we ignore the problem, but we're approaching it from a different place.
So we're aligning with a power that's bigger than us.
Yeah.
And letting that power guide us.
Right, like trusting in something beyond our own understanding.
Okay, and to illustrate this, he uses this really powerful analogy.
What's that?
He talks about the laws of nature.
Okay.
How they just operate perfectly without any help from us.
Right, consistently, flawlessly?
Yeah, like we never worry about gravity not working or 2 + 2 not equaling 4.
Yeah.
We just trust those laws completely.
Yeah, because they just are.
Yeah, they just are.
And he's saying it's the same with the laws of God.
Okay.
Like the spiritual laws that govern our lives.
Okay, so it's not about trying to manipulate those laws to get what we want.
No.
It's about recognizing that they're already working.
Yeah.
All the time, whether we like it or not.
Exactly. We don't have to pray for the sun to rise. Or for gravity to work.
Right.
And in the same way, we don't have to pray for these spiritual laws to work.
Okay, that's a pretty big concept to grasp.
Yeah.
It means everything is already perfect.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't look that way to us.
Right. It's all in divine order.
Yeah.
Even if we don't see it.
And that brings us to what I think is one of the most challenging things he says.
Okay, what's that?
He suggests that there's actually nothing in this world to pray for or against.
Whoa, wait a minute.
I know.
How can he say that when there's so much suffering in the world?
Yeah, all the injustice and pain. And how can he say there's nothing to pray for?
So it comes back to that idea that God is the only power and the only law.
Okay, so he's saying all that stuff that we perceive as negative is actually an illusion.
Right. It's just a distortion created by our limited human perception.
So we're basically creating our own suffering.
Yeah.
By believing in a reality that's separate from God.
Exactly. Like we're at the mercy of all these external forces that we think are outside of our control.
And Goldsmith asks us to imagine what would happen if we fully embrace the truth that God is the only power.
What if God really is the only reality?
Yeah. How would that change our lives, our challenges, our relationships, everything?
That's a really big question.
It is. It is. And then he tells this other funny story.
Oh, okay. I love his stories.
To illustrate this point.
Yeah, what is it?
So there's this priest walking down a country road again.
Okay.
It's dark. It's spooky. You hear someone calling for help.
Uh-oh.
He's hesitant at first, like, what if it's a trap?
Right, I'd be scared.
But the cries get louder, so he goes to see who it is.
Okay.
And guess who it is?
Oh, no, not the devil again.
It's the devil.
He keeps popping up.
I know.
Okay.
And the priest is obviously freaked out, but then
Yeah.
the devil claims to be his best friend.
What? His best friend?
Yeah. And the devil says, how would you make a living if I wasn't around?
Oh, okay.
Who would you save all those people from?
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
It's like what we were talking about earlier with the priest and the devil, where the priest needs the devil to give him purpose.
Exactly. It's that same idea of creating an enemy to give us a sense of purpose or identity.
Right, because we feel like we need something to fight against.
Yeah, and we end up giving that thing power just by focusing on it.
Right, we're actually perpetuating it or trying to fight it.
And Goldsmith is saying we need to break free from that whole pattern of dualistic thinking. What if, instead of focusing on all the bad stuff, we focused on God is?
Okay, like shifting our attention to the truth.
Yeah, the truth that God is the only power.
That would be a huge shift.
It would. It would be like going from a mindset of fear and struggle to a mindset of faith and surrender.
Okay, so instead of trying to control everything, we're trusting in a higher power.
Exactly. And he makes it clear that this shift in consciousness is not something we can force.
Right. It's not about willpower or mental effort.
It's about being open to a new way of experiencing reality.
So how do we cultivate that openness?
Well, he does offer some practical suggestions.
Okay, I'm all ears.
One of the most important things is to be present throughout the day.
Okay.
Like to cultivate an ongoing awareness of the divine within us and all around us.
That's a good practice. So it's not just about setting aside time for prayer.
Right.
It's about bringing that awareness into every moment.
Exactly. And he says we can do this by paying attention to our thoughts and feelings.
Okay.
Noticing the beauty in the world around us, being grateful for all the good things in our lives.
Right. Shifting our focus from what's wrong to what's right.
And he also talks about the importance of forgiveness.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, forgiveness of ourselves and others.
Okay, why is forgiveness so important?
Well, he says that holding on to resentment or blame keeps us trapped in that cycle of separation and suffering.
Right, because we're holding on to the past instead of embracing the present.
Exactly, exactly. So forgiveness is about letting go of the past, releasing the need to be right, and choosing to see everyone, including ourselves, with love and compassion.
So it's about making a conscious choice to see things differently.
Yeah, to see things through a different lens.
I'm really starting to see how all of this connects, like how this God is concept can really change our whole perspective on life.
Yeah, it's such a simple concept.
It is.
But it has such profound implications.
It does.
It changes how we see ourselves.
Yeah.
The world.
Your place in it.
Everything.
It's like he's giving us a whole new framework for understanding life.
Yeah, he really is. And it's a framework that's based on like this deep trust in a power that's bigger than us.
So it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state of enlightenment.
No.
It's about continually deepening our understanding.
And aligning our lives with that truth.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Not a destination.
It really takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Like we don't have to have it all figured out right now.
We're exactly where we need to be.
Yeah, and that's so reassuring.
Yeah.
So what's like the key takeaway you want our listeners to get from Goldsmith's lecture?
I think the most important thing is that the truth of God is not just an idea to believe in.
Okay.
It's a reality to experience.
Oh, wow. I like that.
It's about shifting our consciousness.
Yeah.
So that we can perceive ourselves, the world, and our place in it differently.
It's not just about acquiring knowledge. It's about embodying it. Yeah. Letting it transform us.
And that transformation is a process that unfolds one moment at a time.
I love that. So if God really is the only power, what does that mean for how you approach your day?
Right, your relationships.
Relationships, everything.
Yeah, it changes everything.
That's something to think about, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
We'll have to explore that more next time. Okay, so we've covered a lot with Goldsmith, haven't we?
We have.
We talked about how God can change how we pray.
Yeah.
How we see good and evil.
Yeah.
And even how we see problems and
Challenges.
Yeah. But there's this one thing that keeps coming back to me, and I want to make sure we unpack it a little bit more.
Sure.
So Goldsmith keeps saying there's nothing to pray for. But then he also keeps talking about prayer.
Right.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like, how can there be nothing to pray for?
Right.
If we're still supposed to pray?
Yeah, so remember how we were talking about prayer being less about, like, asking for things and more about just aligning ourselves with what already is.
So it's more about recognizing than requesting.
Exactly.
Like just a deep knowing that God is.
Yeah, like a deep inner acknowledgement of God's presence.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about that idea of surrendering?
Yeah, what about it?
Doesn't that mean we're just like being passive?
Does it?
Like if we're always surrendering to a higher power, how can we actually be, active in our lives?
Oh, right. So remember that sailboat analogy?
Oh, right. We
talked about that earlier. Yeah. Like you can either row and struggle against the wind, or you can hoist the sails and let the wind carry you.
So we're still participating.
Yeah.
We're just not doing it from a place of struggle.
Exactly.
And we're tapping into a power that's bigger than us.
Right. Like aligning ourselves with that power. Okay.
And letting it work through us.
It's like acknowledging our limitations, but also realizing our potential.
That's a really good way to put it, yeah. It's both empowering and humbling.
And Goldsmith says that this whole shift in consciousness, it's not a one-time thing, it's a journey.
Right, a journey of spiritual awakening.
So it's not about getting to some perfect place. It's about just continuing to learn and grow and align ourselves with
the truth.
With the truth.
And that journey unfolds in its own way, in its own time.
Yeah.
So there's no need to force it.
That's a good reminder. So what's the one thing you hope people will take away from Goldsmith's lecture?
I'd say the most important thing is that the truth of God is it's not just something to think about.
Okay.
It's something to experience.
Oh, wow.
It's about shifting how we see things.
Yeah.
So we can experience ourselves, the world, everything differently. It's not just about, knowing stuff. It's about living it.
Exactly.
That's a great takeaway.
Yeah.
So if God really is the only power, what does that mean for how you live your life?
Right, how you approach your day.
How you face your challenges.
Your relationships, everything.
We'll leave you with that question as we wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, that's something to ponder.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
See you next time.